So dear friends, it's episode 41 of Just Return. Kristin and Belinda have been reunited. They're in the rainforest. They've decided to spend one night before they leave. And Kristin has just explained to Belinda about the romance with Stephen Saunderton, her college lecturer. You're not upset then? Why should I be? I know Dad would want you to be happy. I want you to be happy. You're not. No, we're not living together. Good. I'm glad my mother is not a hypocrite. Haven't I always told you that I apply to myself the counsel I give to you? Our relationship on the journey has been tempting, but Professor Saunderton knows my views and is too much of a gentleman to try to make me compromise them. Well, Mum, just to set your mind at rest, Gus, who is more like a granddad, and all the Indians have treated me with respect and dignity. Good, I'm glad to hear it. But now I've got no Duncan. Kristin put her arms around her daughter. Duncan was a good man. He was very fired up like you with the things that are wrong in the world, and you would have been a great combination. He loved you deeply, and I know that you felt the same about him. Life just doesn't always shape up the way we would like it to. We can't change that. So we have to make the most out of it as it does shape. Like you have here, you didn't have a shower, so you used the waterfall. I managed to smile. The bird flew up and over their heads, calling with a whistling like an Irish tin whistle, Kristin thought. You will find happiness, Belle, of that I'm sure, but first of all we have to get you away from this place and get your life back. Belle looked around her and stood up. I long to be in Salisbury, Mum, in the marketplace looking for bargains, along the river looking for birds. Yet I'm going to miss this place so much, so very, very much. I understand that, love. I can see that you have built more than existence here. You always were an adaptable wee girl. She picked up the use of the word we in Ireland. I'm not a bit surprised that you've made life livable here. Gustav might have saved your life and I'm eternally grateful to him for that, but no doubt he benefited from your knowledge, determination and charming company. When they returned to the camp, the men were all laughing and Kristin was not at all surprised to hear Stephen using already several native Indian words. After serious discussion, it was agreed that they should leave the next morning, giving Belle a chance before night to visit Duncan's grave, and Gus busied himself with Stephen sorting out things that would be useful for the Indians: fishing tackle, picnic equipment, water containers, even some of the clothing, blankets, etc. All goods gathered early on from the crash scene. Hermes videoed everything and wrote notes with a gusto. The Indians sat in a circle and talked, laughed lots. Belle had helped them understand with signs, and they agreed too that they would stay the night. After preparing food with her mother and enjoying it with the rest, Gus, Belle, Stephen and her mother set out for Duncan's grave. Belle had flowers and Stephen agreed to video the grave for Hermes, who didn't wish to personally intrude on Belinda's grief. Stephen had suggested the video in the hope that a copy of it would be of some help to Belle and to Duncan's parents as they grieved so far from their son's resting place. Near the place, Gus, taking Kristin's arm, told the story of the snake and his fears and how fearless Belle had driven it away. Kristin, like this charming German gentleman, was very pleased that he had also been led to rescue him. He also related the bravery of Belinda in swimming up the river to find help, and so how she saved his life in return. Kristin was so proud of her daughter who had never even mentioned this event. As they approached the grave, which Gus tried very hard to keep clear of growth, despite Belinda not minding it, everybody fell to silence. Stephen videoed Belinda placing colourful flowers on the grave, and the others stood in respectful silence. Belinda, though, a little embarrassed by the presence of the others, found her emotions fighting their way out of her mouth, and she said the following. Duncan, my beloved Scot, I don't know whether you can hear me or not, but I must leave you here resting in the rainforest that has become yours. As I leave, these flowers represent the large place in my heart that's always reserved for you and the many memories that I have of you. That will always be fresh and clear to me. I promise you, my darling, that I will ever keep you in mind. Our vision of a better world, too, I will keep to the fore, and our aims to work for it. Our hearts are entwined like twin stars, and surely we must meet again, though I don't know how, or where, or when. You used to say the past is unchangeable, and the future is uncertain, but the present is unused and yours, so seize it and use it well. I will try to do that, Duncan, and I will love you always, and for now I must say goodbye. Gentle tears fell on the flowers and the grave, but Kristin didn't move to her daughter's side, feeling it best to leave her to grieve as she was stirred to. 10 minutes passed while Belle sat in silent contemplation at the grave. Stephen, Kristin and Gus stood in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Stephen was listening to the sounds of the forest. A distant monkey of some kind, the calls of some kind of birds, and a high-pitched but descending call that came from a tree nearby. Stephen himself knew that he was in the midst of a very interesting environment, and the scientist in his head wanted to investigate it all. But the caring man in his heart just wanted to get these two ladies and the old German home to England, safe and secure. Gus was very mixed up, really. He loved life here in the forest with Belinda and the Indians. He would have gladly accepted it if they had never been found. Life was okay here, but he'd missed some things about his life in England. Dominoes with some of the old chaps who would have been his enemies once. Newcastle brown ale that he had acquired a taste for. The favourite river walk he enjoyed some weekends. Yet could he return to this? He looked at the young lady kneeling over her deceased fiancé's grave. He was unsure. Would she tell the authorities in England about his SS past? He'd been leading a double life for nearly 40 years. Did he still believe the Nazi philosophy? Was he sure that his actions at the time were right? The truth was that he was not sure about anything. He wasn't sure about politics. The parties nearest to the Nazis in Britain seemed hollow to him. Yet amid the democracy of Labour and conservative governments, he watched what he'd considered to be a once great nation become less productive, less patriotic, more distressed, less lawful, and more undisciplined. Life here in the rainforest had seemed more natural to him. Through life he'd always felt he was in conflict with everything. Here in the forest he seemed to be able to fit in somehow. Yet without Belle it would be just existence. He was glad to see her and her mother united in joy and their being together. But sadly Gus felt more sadness about Belle's attitude toward his Nazi past than he had remorse for the dreadful crimes he'd shared in through the concentration camp years. He justified it as necessary at the time and felt only slight irritation that the defeated, cowardly, suicide body of this Führer seemed to call into question there ever being any point in the Third Reich, any value in this short reign of terror. Many of his victims would have cared more about an ant's nest than he'd cared about them. Now his only real concern was, would Belinda Devlin betray him? Kristin Devlin watched her daughter. She could see herself now about a decade before breaking her heart over Thomas Devlin's grave. She could see the black stone with the gold lettering. The writing was in both Irish and English. Killed on active service. Thomas Devlin, 1943 to 1975. This life given to our Ireland's cause, broken, destroyed by foreign men's laws, never forgotten, a hero to the last, resting with brave Irishmen, now past. As she thought about the grave, the tombstone and the grave, she remembered how it had been a Republican funeral, but poor Kristin had just ridden through it all on a wave of grief. How very different this grave was from Thomas's. Yet the grief Belinda felt brought Thomas Devlin's death near again. But at the same time, the grief she had felt then could be put in one compartment now. Yes, she still felt some, but this would not overshadow her joy or her future with Stephen Saunterton. So, the emotions and the thoughts of different people in this situation, the way people's consciences work, the way people interact from different backgrounds, all things to make us think, really, aren't they? I hope you're enjoying following the story still. There's more to come, and I look forward to sharing some more with you tomorrow. I hope everybody's okay, and thanks for your attention, my friends. Bye now. Bye.